that a political solution is better indicated to solve the political problems in our region, appropriate defensive measures are in place to protect our territory, and no one should be worried about the security of Rwanda. Coming to this part of the world to conclude, Rwanda and the United States enjoy good relations. The US is a valued partner in our development and is active in many sectors, including health, space, trade and investment, and we hope to increase our economic ties in the future. Rwanda is a land of opportunities, open for business and ready for American investments. Let me stop here my introduction, and I look forward to exchanging with you and eventually providing more details on elements I shared in these introductory remarks. I thank you for your kind attention.
Good afternoon. My name is Jendai Fraser. I am the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs during the Bush administration and U.S. Ambassador to South Africa, and I'm currently a Distinguished Visiting Fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
My name is Abdallah Utumatkwishima. I'm the Minister of Youth and Arts in Rwanda.
Well, I guess I'll start off. I very much appreciated the Honorable Minister's remarks about Rwanda at 30, Rwanda in the world. When I think about Rwanda at 30, what I think about, which is so remarkable, is that since the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, Rwanda has done more than most African countries to rebuild its society for reconciliation, to create an environment of prosperity, and really to take charge of its own destiny. And when I think about this, many other countries in Africa, since 1960, it's been 60 years for them or more. When I think about what's been done in this 30 years, I ask myself, what is that unique factor that is responsible for this success? And I'm sure that there are many, many factors, but one that I think beyond sort of the leadership of the country and the hard work of the citizens is there's this, Rwandans have been self-determining in the sense that they've built their institutions around their own culture and their own traditions. And I think this is absolutely critical. When I think about it, in 2001 or so, I was in the administration, and the Gacaca courts were coming up to deal with the perpetrators of genocide. And the international community was very much set against the Gacaca courts as a traditional justice-based system in the hands of the Rwandan communities. They thought this is not going to work. You know, there was a UN International, UN ICTR, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, and they were saying that's the way to go. But the Rwandan people and the Rwandan leadership stuck to its gun, looked to its tradition and its history, and made a remarkable move towards actually dealing with thousands and thousands of cases of the perpetrators in hundreds of communities around the country, throughout the country. And so this was a tremendous success. And again, it was built on Rwanda's history, Rwanda's culture, Rwanda's traditions. I think about Rwanda Day itself, the fact that, there's this new tradition of going outside of the borders, bringing the community together, talking about and bringing the friends of Rwanda together. As the minister was talking about the ability to showcase what's happening in Rwanda so that more visitors will come, so that more investors will come to the country as well, and also to reconnect with those Rwandans who are living abroad. And so I think that this intentionality, this vision, this leadership, and this fidelity to self and self-determination is a key to why in 30 years, in Rwanda at 30, there's been such remarkable achievement. So with that, Minister, I will turn it over to you, and I'm sure we'll have more to discuss.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be on this stage today. It's my first time at Rwanda Day, and it's not. And it's always great to be at the first time, and you are at the panel at the first time, and you are at the panel as a minister. It's not that. It's really something not to take for granted. It's big. It's historical. It's Rwanda at 30. You can get it. Another thing that is a little bit complicated with me is I've been speaking Kinyarwanda the entire life, and now I'm supposed to speak after gender in English. And so I'm going to represent all the people who speak this Kenya English, so you're going to excuse me. As we are in America, I'm going to share with you a short story when I came to America for the first time. It was in 2016. It was my first time to come to the US. I was coming for my pre-doc fellowship in the NIH, the National Institutes of Health. It's actually near here, it's in Bethesda. I was going to do diabetes epidemiology, but before I came, I went to see one of the leaders in Rwanda because I wanted some, words of wisdom before I could fly for the first time. And that leader told me, you are going to America, a strong nation, well-developed, with economic power. When you go there to study your medical things, please study other things too. He actually told me, when you get out of the airport, start learning. And I told him what to learn, because I don't know the country. He told me, as a Rwandan, when you travel in a country like America, you have to learn everything they're doing. He even told me, when you go to the campus, in my case, when you go to the NIH campus, see how the NIH is built, examine the labs, the standards, the protocols, so when you come back home, you can apply both your medical skills, but also the entire ecosystem, the organizational culture, and other things. But when I arrived in America, as a young man, as a young doctor, as a young professional, I was really excited to this country. To tell you the truth, I saw it very developed, as they told me. Trains, buses, good cities. I was really amazed. And I asked the critical question to my supervisor: how does a country develop this much? Like, how do they do it? When I came, it was on the 4th of July. So there was the celebration of independence of America. It was the 4th of July in 2016. America was celebrating 240 years of independence. 240 years of stability. 240 years of peace. And when you see all these things, they have been built in the last 246 years. and we are just 30 years. You can see the difference. I think when we become 240 from the 30 we are today, it's going to be huge. Then I asked my supervisor, how does a country do this? How did America do this? She told me, you are not supposed to discuss history in a medical lab. Again, we have a disclaimer, we don't discuss politics in NIH. So, but I'm going to give you good advice. In all your weekends, go to Washington, D.C., and visit all these 15 museums, the Smithsonian museums that are here. For those who still have time, they have to visit the museums here in the DC. And then visit Lincoln Memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, Washington Monument, Martin Luther King Memorial, and if you have time, go to Maryland and even visit the Harriet Tubman. So I went to all of those places. And she told me, my supervisor, what did you get as a scientist? What do you get in those names I gave you? So Lincoln Memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, Washington Monument. She told me, to do this, America had names, big names. Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman. And she told me, in order to do it in Rwanda, you need a name. And she told me, you have a name actually, Paul Kagame. She told me in Rwanda, in the last 30 years, you have a name. And that name will help you. It has helped you to build what you have already built, but that name will continue to help you to build even the generations to come. So there is always a name. She told me in Rwanda, in the last, of course, today, in the last 30 told years, me, if you go in other countries, go to Singapore, there is a name, Lee Kuan Yew. In any country you go, and she asked me, did you pass by Paris? I said no. But there is also an airport called the CDG. CDG is what? Is Charles de Gaulle. There is always a name behind a very developed country. And Rwanda, we have a name, guys. And that was number one. And then I asked her, but how do they build these big buildings, these convention centers, the universities, and these NIH? And she told me, here in America, there's a strong private sector, strong people doing business, another kind of model, different models of wealth creation. We have the Wall Street, the stock markets. She told me we even have the Silicon Valley for innovations. And she told me, if you want your country to be developed, learn some of the models we have here. Try to find an innovation hub in your country. Try to work harder with the wealth creation models and develop your private sector. That's one of the other things she told me. But then I asked her, it seems you have been very peaceful, no wars, no nothing. She told me, visit the Arlington National Cemetery. So she sent me to Arlington National Cemetery, and then I asked her, a big cemetery with the military graves. And I asked her, why do you want me to go there? And she told me, for a nation to be like this, to be peaceful for this long, 240 years, you need a strong military. You need a strong army that will protect your country inside and outside. And I told her that, as far as I know, in Rwanda, when you ask the population of Rwanda, who are you satisfied with? They will tell you 99.9% we are satisfied with the president. Next, we are satisfied with our military. And I think we are there. So to tell you what I learned in America, the only thing I kept asking, Ambassador, it's it's the wall in the on the neighboring countries, the wall. Like, you always have issues with the neighbors. So then I always ask, why, if you are developed, peaceful, strong, you want to build the wall? And the easy answer is, neighbors are always like that. So you need to... You need to always deal with the neighbors. When they are hungry, they will think you have taken their food. So, even if you are developed as America, you need to deal with your neighbors. So back home also, we have some issues of the neighbors, and I don't know. I don't know if maybe the ambassador with her diplomacy will try to correct this statement. But I want to tell you that for the young people, Rwanda at 30 means the name. I think you've got the name, right? We have to love our name, protect our name, cherish our name. And when we are in 2024, we have to remember our what? Our name. And then young people keep asking, what kind of skills do we need? What kind of commitments do we need after 30 years of Rwanda? The future is unpredictable, and the world is going to keep changing. Our friends, we are not sure if they are going to continue to be our friends, but the American friends will continue to be our friends, right? So at least that we can understand, we can put that in our bank. But the world is changing, so we'll need new models of diplomacy. So if we have young people in America studying international relations and diplomacy, we will need new skills in that domain. With the artificial intelligence and the new skills and the robotics, we need new skills also to bring back home. But if you are successful here in America, we encourage you to continue to be excellent where you are. And when you are excellent, doing great, getting some money, send us some money back home. Yes. We don't want you to rush and come home quickly. No, get first those money and send us some. And I think this is also one way we can do it. So having said this, Rwanda at 30, we need to continue liberating our mindsets. The journey of developing Rwanda is today, tomorrow, and in the future. America is 247 years old. 247 independent, peaceful, democratic. We are just 30. We are just 1/8 of what they have achieved. But think what we have achieved, where we came from as a nation. There is really a hope in the horizon. We can do it. And to tell you the truth, we have young people committed. In a room, we have young people who came from Rwanda on their own ticket, who came to show you what they are doing. Please see what they are doing. They are amazing. The future is in the hands of the young people, and they are very ready and committed. So I want to assure you that Rwanda at 30 give us a lot of work, a lot of commitment. But as far as we have these energetic young people, we can do it. But will you stay our friend in the next 240 years?
You can count on it. Yes, you can absolutely count on it, Minister. I think you can see why Rwanda is so successful, and Minister Abdallah here. Please.
Yes.
barakoze abayobozi bacu ba nyakubahwa ministers ndetse n'umuyobozi waje kwifatanya nabo inshuti y'u Rwanda ku kiganiro cyiza badukoreye kigaruka ku myaka 30 u Rwanda ku isi. Biraryoshye cyane. Nagira rero ngo mu mwanya dusangira ibitekerezo, abafite ibitekerezo hashobora no kuboneka bifuza kugira icyo babaza bakiri mu myanya yabo. Nagira ngo twakire ibitekerezo bibiri bituruka muri ruriya ruhande babisubize bakiri mu byicaro. Mwanya nuwanyu, kugira ngo abafite microphone baradufasha kugira ngo ibitekerezo ibibazo bibagereho nabo bakoresha umwanya neza basubiza. Ndabona wazamuye ukuboko, abafite microphone bamwegereza. Muri ruriya ruhande ndabona umuntu. Oh.
Thank you very much. I've been asked to make a few comments about the progress for the last 30 years. I've had the privilege of evaluating and watching Rwanda at 30. And as the Minister of Youth said, I think the question is not how did America do it, but how did Rwanda do it? And in 30 years, Rwanda is now the country with more women in parliament than any country in the world. That's a big part of the progress. Rwanda has made tremendous progress in increasing life expectancy and lowering poverty. In education, the innovative use of technology. In healthcare, using drones to deliver medicine to rural areas. So I honor today 30 years of what I call people-centered development. And after 30 years, I hope the world realizes this is the story of hope in the world. Thank you.
Yego twakwakira ikindi gitekerezo. Arakoze cyane.
Like the predecessor, I'm Colonel Retired Rick Worth, longtime friend. Can you hear me now? Okay, there we go. I've been asked to make some remarks. I'm Colonel Retired Rick Worth, a longtime friend of Rwanda. First and foremost, what I want to say, Rwanda's success is attributed to the vision of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. Prior to me going to Rwanda in October 1994 in support to attaché to reestablish U.S. Embassy, my good friend Charles Moragandi had given me the RPF program. Unlike many liberation organizations globally, Rwanda actually accomplished the Rwandan Patriotic Front vision. It's about a 40-page document. That's the testament. There was a blueprint, and then coupled with that was leadership. What I'm going to talk about is the greatness of the Rwandan military, because first and foremost, it was the Rwandan Patriotic Army that stopped the genocide in 1994. Secondly, almost immediately, they integrated. I went to Gako in 1994, and I met former Force Armée Rwandaises that were integrated. But more importantly, during the Second Congo War, the Rwandans needed fighters. And so what happened is the majority of the people would come out of the refugee camps. There was a registry, and they integrated Force Armée Rwandaise. Let me just share an anecdote. There was an officer who was wounded outside of Kalemi, and in his army, the FAR, if you were from Bayumba or you were from Gisenyi or Ruangeri, there was a hierarchy. He thought, okay, I'm a Hutu. The Tutsi soldier's not going to rescue me. Well, guess what? They were all RPA, and he wound up going back to the hospital in Rwanda. That's the testament to the greatness of Rwanda. As a military professional, I would rate the Rwandan Defense Force, RDF, as the greatest military in sub-Saharan Africa. Why do I say this? Previously, I would have rated the Ethiopian National Defense Force. But because of the civil war in Ethiopia, they no longer hold that status. But if you look at the accomplishments of the RDF, first and foremost in peacekeeping, fourth in the world, President Kagame told all his troops going to Darfur We are not going to allow human rights abuses. We're going there to enforce the peace because we are the victims of a failed UN mission, UNAMIR. And it was not Dallaire's fault. It came out in New York. And I know that for a fact because I was a major at the Pentagon working this. Dallaire asked for intervention. He was denied time and time again. Just read his book. Lastly, as the minister indicated, Rwanda has bilateral relations. They instilled peace in Mozambique. SADC is leaving, and it looks like Rwanda is probably going to have to send another 2,000 troops. The people in northern Mozambique rever the Rwandan police and the Rwandan military over their own security forces. That's a testament. And lastly, in the Central African Republic, they serve as a counterweight. Everybody has heard of Wagner, which are predatory. The solution to the CAR, and this is coming from a good Rwandan brother of mine, who remains unnamed, but the United States government needs to get behind the Rwandans to train the security force of CAR, and then we make Wagner irrelevant. And I'll leave it at that.
Mu by'ukuri ntibabajije ibibazo birasa nkaho bashimaga twabasubiza umwanya bakagira icyo babivugaho noneho tugasoza icyiciro cya mbere cy'ibitekerezo byatanzwe.
So I think there is no much to say on the interventions we just heard from the floor. It's about just testimonies about the achievement of Rwanda in the last 30 years. And those achievements were possible because of the leadership, the vision, the determination of the leadership and the citizens of Rwanda. But most importantly, the ownership of our development. Ambassador Jenda referred to homegrown solutions. That means that we can borrow good practices from here and there, but we need to own them and to adapt them to our own culture, to our own society, and that is what we did. And that is how we could achieve some results like the life expectancy referred to by Professor Maggie, and many other achievements. So it is just about leadership. It is very important. It is about the vision, but it is also about the leadership being able to share that vision with the population for the ownership and being able to implement and achieve the result we're celebrating today. So that's what I got from these interventions, and I don't know if you have to comment further.
Yes, I'd like to just conclude by saying that we talked about Rwanda at 30, but also Rwanda in the world. I think it's extremely important to emphasize some of the points that the minister and even Rick made about the role that Rwanda is playing in terms of the elevation of Africa as a whole. It's sort of Pan-African push. And specifically, when I think about it, the minister talked about the Rwanda's role in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement to actually bring prosperity to the continent by creating one large market. It's absolutely critical. And it took the leadership of President Kagame as the chair of the African Union to really push that forward and get all of the countries on the continent to agree and ratify that treaty. Secondly, the move towards the free movement of African people across the continent has been led and spearheaded by Rwanda and President Kagame as well. I think that's extremely important, and we need to acknowledge that. As Rick said and others, the Rwandan military is playing a peacekeeping and stability role across the continent. I recall in South Sudan when there was some fighting going on, and President Kagame had to warn the South Sudanese that the RPA was going to, the Rwanda Patriotic Army was going to protect civilians. So do not attack civilians because it's on at that point. You know, and I think that that type of clarity of the need to protect civilian populations in these conflict areas and to play a role as a stabilizer that goes beyond, yes, Rwanda is part of UN missions, but it is also doing relationships or bilateral agreements with countries that are in crisis, like Mozambique with the terror threat there in the north. And Rwanda is playing that stability role. And so I think that whether it's prosperity, it's economics, it's a vision for the continent to play a role in terms of the transformation of this globe. We're at an inflection point where the international system is completely in flux. The rules of the game are changing, and it's going to take a united Africa and leadership of a country like Rwanda to get that collective voice, to be able this time, right, this time when the rules are set, just like after World War II, the rules were set, most African countries were colonized. This time they're free. And let's support Rwanda in being a major continued catalyst for Africa's role globally.
Thank you very much. I really captured good points from the discussants. We are going into Kwibuka 30, we are going into Kwibohora 30, and after Kwibohora we are going into elections. I want to request the people who are in attendance here, even those online, that this year has a special meaning to Rwandans. Because Rwanda at 30, it means, even in my portfolio as the Minister of Youth, young people are between 16 and 30. So if you become 31, you are no longer young. So this year, you gotta decide, because Rwanda is out of 16 to 30 bracket. So there will be a lot of decisions to take, but we need to when we are doing Kwibuka 30, we have to remember. We have to remember where we came from, different choices our country has taken. We have to preserve what we have achieved. We have to build even more, but also we have to improve. I think my call to the young people is that we need ideological clarity always, to understand the choices we have taken, to master our history, and to say yes to all good policies our leaders are giving us, and of course, to do our best in 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to our distinguished panelists. Thank you for your wisdom. I will actually give an opportunity to one more person to ask a question. If you have a burning question that you really want to ask, you want to make sure you have the opportunity. And we can take a question from this side. I see a hand back there. Let's get the mic to you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Prof. Yohane Kainamura, and I am an educator for trade. So mine is more like an appreciation to what the leadership of Rwanda has been doing in terms of all aspects of the Rwandan development. But more importantly, as an educator, I wanted to appreciate what they have done in terms of education, because I believe that education is the basic right and one of the most powerful drivers of economic development. And I believe that education is one of the most important tools that can improve health, economic development, can improve equality, gender, and it is no surprise that Rwanda has made strides in all those areas because they have invested so much in education. I have been watching education in Rwanda, and there is a strong indication that Rwanda is on the rise. My friends, Rwanda is on the rise. When you look at the young people, what they are achieving, it's on the rise. But I also believe that education is not a destination. It is a journey, and that journey we have to all take all together. Friends, I know that many of us do not live in Rwanda, but we can still participate. We can still contribute to that endeavor, because I believe that with education, with a strong education, we can make our country shine. It's already shining, but it can, there is no limits. The sky is the limit. So I want to encourage my fellow men, my countrymen, the diaspora members, do all you can. The education has become global. You can participate, you can educate, you can teach, you can start schools, you can do so much to really empower young people in our country. Because in the last 30 years, with what has been done, education is clearly one of the indicators that the progress has been made, and it needs to be sustained, and that's where you and I come in. So I really encourage you to come in and join in and help build our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I did see one person there who had asked before. If you want to quickly ask your question, please make it quick.
Thank you. I'm not going to speak in English, guys. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. Ntabwo ari ikibazo, ahubwo ni igitekerezo, ni icyifuzo. Umuyobozi wacu, Minisitiri w'Urubyiruko, atubwiye ukuntu hari abana bavuye mu Rwanda bitegeye bakazanga muri Rwanda Day. Nasabaga natwe urubyiruko cyangwa se abantu batuye hanze y'igihugu, cyane cyane hano muri Amerika, kubera iki twebwe tutamanuka tukajya iwacu hanyuma tukajya gusura igihugu cyacu nk'urubyiruko. Nasabaga ubuyobozi bwacu, ubuyobozi bw'igihugu mu gihugu imbere, ndetse n'umuyobozi uduhagarariye hano muri Amerika, yuko babiganiraho barangiza bakadushakira igihe, yaba icyumweru, si ngombwa yuko biba buri mwaka, bishobora kuba rimwe mu myaka 2 cyangwa se rimwe mu myaka 3, ariko natwe tukajyayo. Nayo mafaranga badusabye twagenda tuyajyanye. Urakoze cyane.
Thank you so much. You all can respond to these questions briefly, and we'll move on to the next session.
So, I want to say that while we are celebrating the achievements of our country during the last 30 years, we need to keep in mind that development is a process. So we have achievements to celebrate today, but we need to keep focused and to be mindful that we need to keep improving in some of specific sectors like education, which was mentioned. And I thank the call for everybody to contribute to that particular sector of education and other sectors. So development is a process. There are achievements, but if we just stay there and celebrate and be happy what we have achieved, tomorrow we'll be lagging behind all other nations. So let's keep focused. Let's keep just looking at way to improve on what we have achieved, to build on those achievements, and go even further. Thank you.
Thank you again to our brilliant panelists. We will move on now to the next session. And I do want to say, you guys have all heard for yourselves the remarkable progress that our country has made in such a short time. It's only the beginning. We still have about 100-something years to go to catch up, and we've set a record. So I think it's a challenge for you all today to remember that it takes a name, and you all can be that name today, and you can commit to being that name today. Thank you.